What is up, y'all? Happy Friday. Hope everyone's having a great day. So back to y'all again, and today we are back at question number 2 regarding the do you weigh yourself twice a week plus? Right, so the camera's flipped, wrote on the board, it was backwards, so hopefully this helps you kind of just read this a little bit better. But if you hop on, give me a what's up. I won't be able to see it, but if you have questions, you got thoughts, we'll be able to get to those after this is over, and I'll be able to respond to those. So for today, you guys, when we're going through yet again, the reason why I proposed the first question on there was essentially to get us thinking again, was to get us under the thoughts of why we do the things that we do. What is the reasoning behind why we do certain things? Are we just kind of flying by the seat of our pants and just doing things with essentially blinders on, as opposed to being aware of the actions that we take and understanding that everything that we do has purpose and has reasoning behind it? And so the first kind of thought-provoking portion I want to get you guys on along with that is, what is your intentions behind this? And so I think it's very important for us to understand that, yes, I'm using the scale as the example here because, yet again, I think depending on how we go about doing things, it could be good or bad, all right? Well, not necessarily good or bad, but it can either serve us or not serve us. And so I'll get into kind of what I'm referring to on that, but essentially on there, you guys, is the point I want to really kind of hit home on there is nothing is essentially bad or good. It's the labels that we place things on, right? Like when it comes to our nutritional habits. Oh, I can't have this because that's on the bad list, or I can only have this because it's on the good list. When it's really understanding ultimately what am I trying to create, right? If the version or the vision that I have for myself is this best ultimate version of myself, really what we want to get everyone thinking about is, what are the actions that I need to take in order to align with that best version of myself, right? And so oftentimes what we see, especially when it comes to the scale, you guys, is we focus so much on results that we forget the most important part is the effort and the actions that I take every single second of the day is really what ultimately matters. And so the question of what is your intention behind that is essentially comes from that aspect, right? Is what is ultimately the intentions of what you're doing that from. It can't necessarily good or bad, but it's identifying that. Some of the responses I got is, well, I really don't have any intent behind there. I just hop on the scale to keep me accountable, or I keep it just as kind of a result, as kind of seeing that I'm on the path towards the results that I want to get. And so yet again, not necessarily those bad, because yet again, those are your evaluations for yourself. But I think it's also important to understand that I can have the same results, but the intention behind them can result in two way different feelings on there. An example of this is when I was at the University of Colorado as an assistant strength coach. Well, like I said, we would weigh our athletes every single day, and we would weigh them every single day to, for one, see how they were doing and how they were recovering on a nutritional basis and based off of the training program as we went on. In addition to that, the staff, the coaching staff, the head football coach, the players or the positional coaches wanted to see specific athletes at a specific weight. They wanted to see certain receivers at 195 pounds. They wanted to see linemen at 100 or 315 pounds. And so what we would see there is, as we would go through progressing that, it went from sometimes of gauging their weight on seeing, like you're down 3 pounds from what you did yesterday. Like, we need to get you hydrated. We need to get you probably some normal rest. We need to get those kind of things on there to, you've been down for the last 3 weeks on there. Obviously, you're not following your nutrition plan. You're not following these kind of things. And we're going to pull you back, and there's going to be punishment along with that. And so the intent behind there was both the same thing, is we wanted to get them into that weight class that the coaches were asking them to get onto. But what we would also see on there is players, instead of giving their body the nourishment, the love, and the rest, and all that stuff that it needed in order to get to that result, what we saw instead was because we had a nutritional center within the weight room, is they would take stuff, they would gorge out on, the shakes, the bars, all that stuff before weigh-ins would come in, so they would be at their ideal weight. But really, what the result was is they weren't giving themselves the proper nutrition, the proper recovery, the proper hydration on there. So the intent behind that was essentially was to get them into this realm, but it actually didn't serve them in the best way, because ultimately they were looking at it as punishment, not as ultimately as a reward aspect. So the result was the exact same, but the intent and the way it served those athletes turned out to be two conflicting things. An easier another way on there is for my wife. I love my wife, and if it's our anniversary or her birthday and I decide to get her a gift, I decide to get her a gift because I don't want her to get the intent that I don't care about her, or I don't love her, or I want to give her this because I don't want to get nagged, or whatever else that may go in there. As opposed to, I want to give her this because I love her, because I want to show and demonstrate the love and enjoyment and the gratitude that I have for her. The results, the gift may be the exact same gift or whatever I would give her, but the intention behind that is two way conflicting or way different ideologies or thoughts behind that. And so what I want you guys thinking about on there is also understanding that every thought that we have, there's a action behind it. When we think about certain things, our brain is a card catalog. For those young people out there that may be watching this, card catalogs are what we used to have at a library to find books. And so your brain functions as a card catalog. When I think about a memory, or I think about a person, a food, an action, whatever it may be, a chemical reaction happens in my brain, transfers into my body, which creates an emotional feeling, which in turn causes a reaction. And so when I'm going through those, when I'm identifying my intent behind that, yet again, that's going through that card catalog, that Rolodex, grabbing a hold of thought of why I'm doing the things that I'm doing. Am I getting on this scale because my doctor told me I need to be this weight, otherwise I'm going to die? Or I want to fit in this pant size because it's bathing suit season, so if I get down 20 pounds, all of a sudden I'll be able to receive more love. Or as an athlete, I need to be at this certain status of weight class in order for me to feel like I'm strong. I've been there. That's what I've done, using myself as a reference. And so, yet again, what is the intentions behind the actions that you do? Not just based off a scale, but through all the other aspects of your life. Because if we're doing it in one aspect of our life, I promise we're doing it in many other aspects of our life as well. Now, the other part is, how is it serving you? And ultimately, I think this is probably even, they go right and left. This is an A and B, A1, A2 kind of thing on there, but they both go together on there, is the intention, and then also how is it serving you? Because yet again, I can have that intention of giving my wife love, giving her gratitude, giving all those kind of things out of basically fear or out of love. Now, the fear aspect on there is, I promise if I'm doing that, it's probably based off of a non-loving, gratitude type of building relationship, as opposed to the other one on there is it's based around gratitude, love, and fulfillment. And so because this is one of those things that we get a lot as far as the conversation pieces going on with people that we talk a lot with the scale is, every time I get on the scale, I get this result. Okay, then how is that serving you? What is the feeling, okay? What is the feeling that you're getting every single time you step on that scale? Well, I get sad, I get depressed, I get angry, I get overwhelmed, I get, the slew of other things that happen along with that. So it's really not serving you. Really, right? Like the action that you're taking and the feeling that you're getting from that is ultimately you're punishing yourself. And the reason why I think this is important, because the world we live in nowadays is overwhelmingly surrounded by perfectionism, surrounded by aspects of judgment, is surrounded by comparison, expectations. And so we see oftentimes, because of the expectations, because of the comparison, because of I'm expecting to see this result and it's not giving me the exact result that I was expecting on there. Now all of a sudden I'm punishing myself. I'm not giving myself the love that I deserve on there. And all of a sudden it went from me feeling like this really accomplished person and proud of myself to all of a sudden a lesser person and not so proud. And so with that being said, you guys, yet again, that's not serving us. You know what? There's a lot of other measurements that we can use that can get us propelled in the right direction, not using one that comes from a place of a punishment and non-love, and essentially that brings our self down. And so, Tony Robbins says it all the time, is people, progress equals happiness. And I think oftentimes, yet again, the results that I got back as far as the feedback with the surveys that I took was, well, I just want to do this so I can see progress. I do see progress, so I constantly weigh myself every single day. And I've done that. I will fully admit I have done that. In our first challenge that Courtney and I did almost 10 years ago, it was a 50-day challenge. And for me, as an athlete, all the way up through the collegiate level and everything else, as a guy, especially on the smaller side of things, I always felt like I needed to gain weight, right? Like I always, as a man, I felt like I put all my manhood based off of how much I weighed, how big I was. And we went through our first challenge, and within 30 days, I lost 31 pounds. I went from about 183 all the way down to 150. And you know what, like, for my size, like I've always been blessed enough to be a fairly lean guy, all those things. But during that time frame, I lost a ton of inflammation. At that time, I was, drinking shakes, eating processed foods, eating a lot of carbohydrates, eating a lot of the things that thought that I should be eating in order to gain the weight. But once I started transitioning over better nutritious foods and all those kind of things, I lost all that inflammation. And literally in 30 days, I lost 30 pounds. And so what I would do every single day is I would step on the scale, I would panic. My manhood was being stripped from me every single second of the day. So what I started to do was I wouldn't weigh myself in the morning because I knew that was when I was going to be my lightest. I decided I would eat lunch. I would gorge myself at dinner, drink a bunch of water, do everything I could, and then step on the scale because I wanted to get that feeling of, okay, it's not that bad. I'm still moving in the right direction. My manhood is still intact. And how many of you can relate to that, right? Like, you won't weigh yourself at this particular time. You'll go to the bathroom. You'll dehydrate yourself. You won't eat. You'll do all these things just so you can see that scale move in the direction we want to move it in, right? Like, we can manipulate those things in any shape or form. So in all reality, there's no sense of reality behind that. We're just trying to get the sense of a feeling that we're trying to create that we constantly keep chasing. And so it's important for us to understand that those actions aren't necessarily serving us in the grand scheme of things. Yet again, if I'm trying to create this absolute best version of myself, what are the actions that I need to take day in and day out, not necessarily focusing on the results that are getting there, because the results are going to change throughout the process. It's a journey, it's a process, and throughout that journey, that's what I'm ultimately creating. And I promise the vision that I have for myself down the road is always going to change as I go through with that, because those results are going to change and they're always going to be evolving as I go through with that. And so the big part that I want you guys thinking about with just these two simple questions is, how can you apply that in your life? What is your intention behind what you're doing? Yet again, it's playing checkers, not chess. It's thinking 3 moves ahead and understanding there's going to be a result that comes out of that. And are we going to be able to love the result that happens from that, as opposed to, I'm going to hop on this scale and it's going to suck. It's going to make me angry, but I'm going to do it anyway, right? Like, it's the same thing as going to a bad movie and reliving it every single day. You already know the way the story that ends. Change your action, you're going to get a different result, right? So that's the first one, you guys, is what's your intention? Look at the intention, analyze it, really let yourself feel into why you're doing those things. And the other part is, ultimately, how is that serving you? Is it leading you into that path that's leading to your best version of yourself? Are you on that road, or is it taking you away from that road? Because it doesn't have to be big, massive steps. It doesn't have to be monumental change. It's just little small segments of that. But I promise, if we can get ourselves, yet again, focusing on progress and getting ourselves not fixated on an external result that we really have no control over, we can see progress, which yet again ultimately equals happiness. If you're happy, you're going to sustain for a much longer time, and you're going to see results in areas that you never thought were possible. So I know this kind of went on a different tangent on there, gang, but essentially, you guys, I want you guys to use this, whether it's applied to the scale or whether it's applied to any other aspect of your life, whether it's your friends, family, business, relationships, whatever it may be. What is your intention, and ultimately, how is it serving you? So if you got thoughts, you guys, if you got feedback, if you got help from this, let me know. Much appreciate everyone's feedback on there. Also, tag a friend in this, you guys. I think this is a big area that we all can relate with. And yet again, if we can get ourselves away from punishing ourselves by simply not or being aware of the decisions that we're making every single day, I promise this will carry over into other aspects of our life of appreciation for each other. So appreciate you guys. Happy Friday. Hope you all are having a great day. Give me your thoughts. Give me your feedback. Take care, y'all.